Hey there, Ron Sullivan, your online hitting consultant. I want to talk today about, we've got some analysis of three different professional hitters hitting balls in different parts of the zone. Many of you, when you normally see this analysis, somebody's using a video from 2009 that proves all their philosophy is correct. And honestly, it's really difficult this day and age, and this is why these guys, because they are teaching what they see. They see these certain things, and it's very easy to communicate. The difference in your player, your young player, and the pros is these guys turn more, right? And it's hard to argue against that because, your player is not showing these same patterns. They're just not. And so we could easily just say, hey, just turn your body. And I'm going to show you why it's a really bad idea if you're challenging your player to turn their body. And the difference between young players and professional hitters, and one simple, and this is not complete, but I assure you the difference between young players and professional hitters is professional hitters know how to get their top hand arm behind the ball. That everything you're going to see in the baseball swing in general has to do with getting this top hand arm in a position where they can get behind the ball and hit it hard. All right, so watch this example here. Merrifield, same guy, right? Two different locations. Now, the growing movement and a trend these days is, there's one guy that talks about how the pros get their front arm up really high. They may even talk about the flexion in the front arm. Well, how do you argue against that? Because it's true. You'll see flexion in the front arm. In fact, in the 21-day challenge, we have drills for trying to challenge players to understand the movement of the bottom hand arm. And so in a lot of the drills, you'll see that the bottom hand arm will have more flexion rather than no flexion. But what we're trying to train players to do in the 21-day challenge is we're trying to make sure that they understand that the whole goal of this bottom hand arm, I shouldn't say the whole goal, but the major goal that we have is this sucker better get out of the way of this, right? So as we work to the inside here, and by the way, this pitch on the left is on the edge of the inner half, or it's on the inside part of the plate. The other one's on the outside part of the plate, right? You see a completely different approach. Now, if this guy, if his philosophy was, I just turn my body, everything else just works out, right? He's doomed. He doesn't do this. These three examples that I'm going to give you today. I don't know of any better examples to prove that turning your body it should never be the goal. I actually saw a tool the other day where it said youth players should do this, and they put a bar across their body, and the players just turning their body with this bar across their body. And it really, if you look at it, you go, oh man, that looks great. But if you, for the trained eye, right, you understand, wait a minute, somebody's missing something here. That these mechanisms have a job to do. And what more young players are being trained to do these days is that their top hand arm just turns with the body. Now, I think a lot of you that have elbow draggers, that idea makes a lot of sense because you're like, oh, my player's dragging their elbows, so man, if I could just get them to turn the top hand arm around their body, they'll be fine. Well, the problem is they will. Let me say this: you will see an improvement with an approach like that. It's what it establishes with young players. It's kind of it's kind of a trick, I think. It establishes more of what we call connection, the body-barrel relationship that kids are completely lost on. They're normally holding a foreign object and kind of whacking the bat at the ball. Right? And so a guy comes along and says, hey, just turn all these things together and it'll look better. Yeah, and it does. On video, it looks a lot better sometimes. The body's just turning. Yeah, you're right. The hands and arms don't do anything. But what happens to these players is they are limited on their ability to make adjustments because they really didn't get the real part of hitting that is going to help them improve. And it's understanding the role of the top hand arm. All right, so if you watch on the left and the right, Merrifield is obviously rotating his body more. The body is definitely, let's say, it's turning more, right? But what's happening here is not the body turning the mechanisms. These are the mechanisms, bottom hand arm and top hand arm, that are holding the bat. These mechanisms have to move faster than the turn of the body. And the turn of the body almost always is a response to what these mechanisms are doing. Right? And that's why you see over here on the right, I'm not saying he's not turning his body, but he's definitely staying on the ball more. Why is he staying on the ball more? Did he say, I'm not going to turn my body as much? Did he say, I'm not going to use my bottom hand arm as much? No, His body is responding to his top hand arm, trying to get in a position where he can drive this ball, right? It's going across the plate, whereas over here, it's getting inside so he can get to this inside pitch. He's trying to get this arm behind the ball. That's where we know we have to hit that ball further out front. So these mechanisms are responding to this. I promise you that this arm right here is not a drilled arm. Now, I'm sure he's done bottom hand arm work before, right? But I promise you the difference between these two is not over here he said, I'm going to keep my arm bent. This arm, in a good hitter, this arm responds to what this arm wants to do. If I get a pitch way on the inner half, this arm is going to get the heck out of the way so I can get behind the ball with this arm. Over here on the right, as his arm is going across, this top hand arm is trying to get behind this ball in the outer half of the plate. You see a difference in flexion in the front arm, right? Because he doesn't have to bend this and turn it around the corner. He's got to get to this pitch. He has to get to this pitch, right? And this is not what's being taught. What's being taught is the same swing you see over and over again where guys are making the assumption he's just turning his top hand around his body. And well, if he gets an outside pitch, trust me, his hands and arms are going to go in the right direction. No, if your goal is to turn your top hand arm with your body, it's not going to go in the right direction when it needs to. Train your player to use their top hand arm to get behind the ball. Here's Contreras, right? You're not going to see analysis like this, folks. I know a lot of you are looking for the same catchphrases, perhaps. And in the last analysis I saw of Pro Swing, the guy talked about No, I'm showing you differences. And the same dudes, right, hitting a ball, all bombs, by the way, all bombs, but their approach is completely different. Inner half, outer half. You get them to the same position, right? Same sequence in the swing. Well, what's the difference at the slot? It looks a lot like the elite swing, doesn't it? The guys, flatten your hand out behind you, pull the elbow underneath, and lay the bat down behind you. This is an adjustment. This is an adjustment, not Contreras saying, all right, I'm going to get more barrel depth behind me. This guy, right, is the main driver in this swing. This top hand arm is going to get behind the ball, right? And so because it's going across the plate, the barrel follows that action as he's driving with the top hand arm. Boom, right? He's not skipping rocks with his top hand arm. I've heard so many different examples. He's trying to get that top hand arm in a position where he can get behind the ball and drive the stink out of it, right? That top hand arm right now is facing towards first base. Okay? This bottom hand arm is responding to that, right? It's responding to that. If Contreras at the top of the swing here said, I'm just going to turn my body, this never happens, right? This arm would, especially, the guys that put the bar across their body and turn, this top hand arm would just turn around the corner. He'd never be able to get to this pitch. This is hitting, right? This is hitting what a lot of people might consider, it's old school. It's not old school. You got to get behind the ball, and the top hand arm is the most important. You see here on the inner half, look how short this move is from the top. So many kids are being trained these days to come out of the wrong window, right? Watch videos like this of Contreras, and we talk about barrel depth, and we go, yeah, look how he's getting that barrel laid down. And so we're training more players in this elite generation, I guess, if you want to call it that, to swing out of this window, right? Whereas, in general, a hitter's goal, right, is not that that's the exit point. The exit point for most hitters, they want to come out of here. They want to come out of here, right? When they come out of here, it's got to be because they've got to create more length across the plate. If the pitch is down in a way, you're going to see even something more drastic than this. So the barrel depth is a response to this mechanism. This mechanism is saying, uh-oh, I got to go that way. This mechanism is responding to that. Whereas, and you see over here on the left, bottom hand arm. Lots of flexion there, right? The guy that's getting a lot of subscribers by telling everybody to take this arm up really high, right? He's not allowing the players to hit this pitch. Because the top hand arm, the bottom hand, anything with hands, arms, those mechanisms, they don't matter to these guys, right? They don't matter. You don't have to train your player to do that. You just turn the body and, man, everything's going to work out. Friends, you better train your players to let them understand what is the role of these mechanisms. Why isn't he flapping right here? Why isn't he flapping his elbow down? Because he's got to get in. He's got to get inside. He's got to get that top hand arm behind the ball, right? And the fastest way is what a lot of people would say, well, that's a push swing. Well, brother, he's pushed this right over the fence. Okay, so the top hand arm getting behind the ball is extremely important. Rotating the body is the last thing you want to talk to your young players about. They have no problem with turning their body. They don't understand how these mechanisms work. When they understand these mechanisms, on inner half, you're going to see more turn. You try to get your top hand arm behind a ball out front, I promise you your body is going to turn. It's gonna, if you know how this arm works. And you dads out there, think about it. Go, you're videoing your player. Watch what their top hand arm does. And these are the guys, a lot of you are going, well, it's got to be because they're not turning hard enough. Well, that's not it. They don't understand what the role of the top hand arm is. Here's George Springer. Oh, another example. Again, we're abandoning the one swing from 2009 of Albert Pujols to prove our point. We're showing different things here, different approaches. And over here on the right is the elite swing. This is what I see all the time on YouTube. Oh, it's crazy. Dumping the barrel. You got that elbow down in the slot, right? And he's just going to spin on this. There ain't no spinning happening, no turning happening here. This is a guy on a pitch on the outer half of the plate. Look at his top hand arm. That's towards first base, towards the ball, right? He's got to get that arm behind the ball. Bomb. Oppo bomb, too, by the way. Right here, here's the, oh, he's doing a push swing. He also pushed this one 430 feet, right? To where he got, like any trained hitter, I got to get behind this ball. I can't turn all these things around and hope that I can get behind it. That's just flipping the bat. It's just swinging the bat across the ball. He's going, uh-oh, I got to get this stuff inside. And most importantly, I've got to get the most important mechanism behind the ball so I can drive with it. There it is, right there. Now, this is where a lot of people get screwed up too. There's a lot of examples online of, guys stopped at a fixed position here. Top pin, palm up, palm down, all that kind of stuff, and they just focus on this position, right? Well, guess what? You better focus on all of them. You better be able to hit this pitch. And if you're just thinking you turn and then find some position here where you're like this or whatever, you're not going to be able to do that every swing, right? So you're like, well, is it wrong to teach players this? Yes, if you're teaching your players that the mechanisms that are holding on to the bat have no job, that you're going to rotate your body, your torso, and everything's going to work out, and forget about these things, your player is going to drag the bat. Now, the good news, I guess, for the people that believe in that philosophy is, well, at least they're not pushing the bat. Well, friend, if you can't get inside, and if you think from here to here that he's just turning his shoulders and that nothing else is happening, then I don't know how to sell you this. If you people, those guys will never change. If you think that right here he's just turning his body and everything's working out, you can't get from there to there without using the mechanisms that he's using right now to get everything out front and get the top hand arm behind the bat, right? So, again, I know I sound disgruntled. I am disgruntled because the guys that are just saying the same gobbledygook over and over again, yeah, you get the barrel down and get back here so you can get on plane early. Well, it wasn't a bad idea. You certainly need to get on plane, but this isn't every swing. This isn't every swing. This is a pitch on the outer half of the plate where he's trying to get through that. And the most important thing you need to know is, how does my young player learn in this game to get his top hand arm in a position where he can drive with it and not unravel it? That is what youth players do. They unravel. The closest hand to the barrel is unraveling. Is that a good word to use? It's skipping rocks, right? The drills of top hand, hey, you just feel like you're skipping rocks with that. No, you better not, right? It doesn't mean you can't hit that way, but you're going to be slapping balls around. If you don't learn how to get that top hand arm in the game, it ain't going to be fun. Ron Sullivan, your online hitting consultant. Thanks.